let's do this Bernie thing. So here is Labour MP Wes Streeting.
Streeting.
Oh, sorry, Streeting. I apologize. Good sir. So sorry. So sorry. He is on this British show LBC
With Andrew Marr.
and this is probably a good illustration of what's happening with Labour in the UK right now. It seems to be contracting, like
Purging the left.
they're running away from Corbyn's, not just Corbyn. I mean, they've already excommunicated him.
Yep.
But everything that might resemble a Corbyn kind of ideology.
Well, and you'll hear Streeting later, but he mentions Momentum, and Momentum was the sort of movement behind Corbyn, and there's a lot to talk about in this piece here.
But interesting crossover, because this it literally is directly about Bernie Sanders' rhetoric.
And it's interesting how Bernie's been making the news a lot with his new book. He's got we should try to get him on the show actually, if he's doing these.
He was just in Brooklyn, and I don't know why we didn't. Yeah,
because it's too cool.
Yeah,
but yeah, they're talking about Bernie. Bernie has his new book out. It's okay to be upset about capitalism or something like that. So here are them talking about this.
And, when we've had these waves of strikes recently, you and your colleagues have been extremely tentative about going anywhere near picket lines. And for a lot of people, not just on the hard left, that seems right. Now, this is what, if you just listen for a second, I was talking to Bernie Sanders, who is, as it were, the American version.
Just to outline what he meant there, the RMT union has been on strike for a while, and there might be others I'm just not aware of, but the Labour Party has said, if you're like a frontline MP, you do not go to those strikes to support them. If you're a backbencher, you can maybe get away with it, but if you're too sort of out there about it, then you can get disciplined too. We talked to Heather Mendick on Left Reckoning on Tuesday about that exact same dynamic. I mean, really, for a nominally Labour Party, and it's always been nominally more than maybe in fact in history, but it has unions on its side.
But the nominal part should be important in this instance, right?
Yes, exactly.
Jeremy Corbyn, very different.
I don't know how you have a political party that stands for anything if they don't stand with the working class of this country. And I think why so many people get demoralized and alienated from the political process is they see the people on top doing phenomenally well, and they're saying, who is standing with me? Who is worried about the future of my kid, whether I can afford to send my kid to college? Who is worried about whether I can pay the rent? And you need, in my view, political parties in the United States, in the UK, all over the world, who say, you know what, we're prepared to take on powerful special interests. We're going to stand with the working class, with the unions.
Now, he didn't prevail in the end, and there'll be more of that interview later, but he's not wrong, is he?
We're not a party of protest. We're a party that wants to be in government, so we can make a difference for working people.
He's talking about taking on the big vested interest and the vast inequalities in society.
That's what Labour governments do. And with respect to Bernie Sanders, I genuinely think if he'd won the Democratic nomination, he wouldn't have beat Donald Trump at the election. America would be under Trumpism.
Pause it. Yeah. This is a counterfactual, but all empirical data points to the fact that he would have.
There's that, and also maybe I don't know who Wes Streeting is. Maybe he's unfamiliar with what happened in this country, but actually we did live under Trumpism for 4 whole effing years because the party of Wes Streeting type of guys said, no, we don't have time for this. We got to be serious and win the election, and nominated Hillary Clinton, and she lost to Donald Trump.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know. I'm very convinced that Bernie would have won. I think Martin O'Malley would have won. I think the liabilities of Hillary combined with the turnout stuff of Trump was
and 20 years of a media apparatus basically demonizing her. That's the situation.
Exactly. But let's just play this a little bit more, and then we'll get into what Labor has done under Keir Starmer and to Jeremy Corbyn.
Sure.
Instead, they went for Joe Biden. And I remember all the criticism from all of the, self-appointed talking heads for the left in Britain who were saying, Biden's boring, Biden's too centrist, Biden isn't going to deliver for working people. But look at Joe Biden's ambitious domestic plan. Look at what he's doing to accelerate America towards net zero.
So British folks who, we haven't been making those strides. That sort of stuff about the ambitious domestic plan, neutered by Joe Manchin, and to try to reach out to Republicans with bipartisan bills, way less than it should have been. And same with the climate stuff. So that's all talk. Right
yes,
now.
and I mean, and we've also acknowledged it's just. I mean, the critique there of, I guess, what he thinks the left is leveling at Biden isn't necessarily even true. We just have been acknowledging on this program that Biden is a further left president than he honestly has been as a senator. I would say he was one of the more right-wing Democrats in the Senate for most of his career. Mm-hmm. So I mean, he also did not campaign on being a leftist or a progressive. In part, he was forced into making some of the strides described there because of the pressure put on him by the Bernie wing.
To make sure that the American, there's more buying, making, selling of American goods for American people, creating good jobs and wages.
Though, to be fair,
and he can do that because he won.
Biden did pick up quite a lot of the Sanders agenda. They sat down together and they thrashed out a compromise, which is a bit like you guys sitting down with Momentum and agreeing a compromise position, which I don't see happening anytime soon.
Well, I think the comparison with Momentum is very uncharitable to Bernie Sanders.
He says this, it's uncharitable for Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders just met with Jeremy Corbyn when he was over here in the States. The idea, Bernie Sanders would not consider this uncharitable. I think he would agree that, we need something like Momentum if he would have won, say, the nomination here. I'll just play a little bit more here.
Yeah.
Momentum and agreeing a compromise position, which I don't see happening anytime soon.
Well, I think the comparison with Momentum is very uncharitable to Bernie Sanders. I wouldn't put him in that bucket. But I do think that in terms of what a Labour government will do, and you look at those missions we've set out, I mean, it wasn't just growth, it was inclusive growth. That's at the heart of that pledge, growth in every part of the country. Look at what I'm saying about tackling health inequalities in our country. If you're serious about doing that, you have to deal with the social determinants of health, poverty, poor quality housing, low wages. So we are ambitious and absolutely delivering. I mean, I'm a kid from a council estate.
Right.
Okay, well,
he says that all the time.
Yeah.
I'm a kid from a council estate.
It just is, that's just branding, but I don't pretend to know as much about British politics as many, but Momentum, from what I understand, is like an organization, kind of grassroots effort to push the Labour Party to the left. Yeah. Bernie Sanders would be 100% aligned with Momentum if he were a politician in the United Kingdom.
Absolutely. Momentum is, when Bernie Sanders said, when he says, if I win, that's when the work starts. We will need a movement. Momentum was attempted to be that movement for Jeremy Corbyn after he won the head of the Labour Party.
Yeah.
And when that guy says Bernie Sanders wouldn't have won, that's not the people. I think the people wouldn't have been the veto there. It would have been the party itself. It would have been all the American Wes Streetings who would have sabotaged Bernie, because that's exactly what they did to Jeremy Corbyn. Corbyn had a lot of success early on, and then I just want to play this from the Labour Files Al Jazeera, but I recommend people look into the Labour Files. It's the best files document dump, I think. Contrasting to some others.
Yeah, right.
But here's just a little bit from this Al Jazeera documentary.
I love Al Jazeera English, thank God. I mean, they really do good stuff too, but...
who could be Britain's next Prime Minister.
Its members.
Free speech was shut down.
They tell the inside story of how Sir Keir Starmer, who could be Britain's next Prime Minister, leads a lawless party.
I've waited 17 months to appear in front of you in this hall as leader of our great party.
Confidential documents expose tactics to discredit and expel rivals in the party.
People are actually quite dangerous who are in with the Labour Party. They were playing with people's lives here.
They reveal how Starmer's predecessor was undermined by a smear campaign from within.
It's Corbyn.
It disabled him as a politician and as a potential Prime Minister.
Really nice to see you here. Goodbye.
How British democracy, known as the Mother of Parliaments, is being undermined by spying and dirty tricks.
No one would expect that a political party would associate themselves with the whole-scale hacking of the press.
It looks like somebody is constantly monitoring me, where I'm going and where my car is parked and where my children is going.
Yeah, so I mean, people can check out the labor files for that full thing. But with regards to like why Corbyn failed, the idea that it was just the people who rejected him, it was Blairites and centrists in the Labour Party who wore mourning garb the day after Corbyn won and never allowed him to actually lead that party. And we talked about this with Heather Mendick on Left Reckoning earlier this week. You can contrast the trouble and the subterfuge and the sabotage that Jeremy Corbyn experienced when he was the leader of the party, and you look at how all those exact same people have lined up to purge the left under Keir Starmer, and you realize, like, there's funny stuff going on here.
Well, yeah, I mean, and also just to bring it back to the original clip that we played, it's incredible to be making these kinds of claims in the moment that the UK is in, with like the numerous strikes, the nurses, the teachers, workers within the UK that have been striking over the past, calendar year, right? The early few months, it's been historic. Yeah. So, I mean, this is the exact moment that Labour should be stepping into, like this energy and feeding with, and Corbyn, if he was leading the party, would be, obviously.
I mean, and the problem is they look like they might be able to beat the Tories anyway. So you can purge the left and you beat the Tories. Like that's what Bernie exists to fight, because like frankly, like there's a sort of conceit that like. And Streeting sort of pointed to it, like the leftists had said, "Oh, Biden's too boring to win." Well, like that's not necessarily true, but he's too boring to actually do what needs to be done when he's in office, and that's ultimately like when you see people like this and the active, leave if you don't agree with us that like they're purging people out of the leftists out of the party for saying that. Exactly what the labor files proved, that, for instance, anti-Semitism as a charge has been weaponized against the left, especially particularly under Corbyn. That's a matter of fact. Like I think anybody who doesn't accept that, I think is actually not helping the wider fight against anti-Semitism, because I think it's just a pronounced, like I said, fact. And I mean, it's really demoralizing to see like these people, and like when it comes to policy, I had a lot of talk of like, oh, we're going to nationalize all this, that, and the other, and all of a sudden, I guess we're not going to nationalize mail anymore, and maybe we'll do rail. We'll see. Like I don't believe any of these promises as to their massive agenda, and I would suggest that like they'll be sort of undone by like the sort of Manchin types who, however they exist in the UK.
Yeah. That is depressing that because the Tories are so unpopular that Labour's still going to be victorious and feel that it's affirming of these kinds of choices.
Yeah. It bears some resemblance to what we got going on here.
Yeah.